and welcome back to episode 126 of Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kylie Montigney. And I'm super excited to have on host of Rayna Maggelet Sports, Rayna Maggelet. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm super excited to chat with you again.
Hi, Kylie. I'm so excited to talk with you again. Thank you for inviting me on.
Of course. So, how I know we talked about this on the Instagram series and stuff like that, but if people didn't watch Instagram series, how did you find your love for sports that kind of inspired you to do journalism in sports?
Yeah, so my family is a huge family that loves sports. Like we're very sports dedicated, diehard sports fans. So we've always kind of been around at sporting events. That's what I always did growing up. Some of my best memories as a child was attending these sporting events with my family. And it became kind of like a habit and a passion to just always go to these events. And I was like, I kind of want to make this my life. So that's what I'm doing. I've always loved writing. So I knew that journalism was something that was kind of like a background like idea college, but then when I realized there's sports journalism, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what I want to do. And then later on, as time went, I realized, okay, I don't want to be a writer. I want to be a reporter. I want to be in front of the screen, not behind it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been working towards my goal of doing that. But I do am still keeping a sports journalism major just because you can gain so much knowledge and experience as not just being a writer, but also as an anchor or reporter.
Would you ever kind of do writing in terms of sports, like with being in front of camera, or would you just rather keep doing being in front of the camera rather than keep writing 24/7?
I would honestly, I have no hatred towards writing. I could do it in an instant. I could write a bomb killer essay in 30 minutes. So I don't have anything against writing, especially when it's sports, something I love. But if I had to pick like what I want to do the rest of my life, it definitely would be in front of the camera.
And me and you talked about this a couple of weeks back, but you are a Red Sox fan. Me and you talked about this. We both love the Red Sox and diehard fans and stuff like that. Does your family like the Red Sox, or is it just kind of you that like the Red Sox?
Oh, it's my whole family, entire family. I was born actually in the hospital, like a 5 minute drive from the stadium. Growing up, when I lived in Massachusetts, we went to games all the time. So my entire family is a huge Red Sox fan. I don't think there's any member of my family that's not a Red Sox fan.
Oh my God, really?
Yes, I'm being completely honest. All of us are Sox fans.
Oh, that's crazy. Like with my family, everyone's literally Phillies fans. Literally, if you're probably thinking, oh, it's Super Bowl, my family's
Yeah,
probably rooting for the Eagles, most likely from
yeah.
being in the Philadelphia area. And with being a Red Sox fan, who's your favorite player? Do you have a favorite player?
So this is a bit of a controversial topic. It's not someone mainly everyone knows, because he did just get sent down to AAA, which is not a good thing. But my favorite player is Bobby Dahlbeck.
Mhm.
He is, in my eyes, an amazing player. But he's my favorite. But if I had to jump on like the bandwagon of like my favorite player, it would probably have to be Rafael Devers. He's definitely second, but my favorite will always be Bobby Dahlbeck.
He's terrific. Oh my gosh. But Rafael Devers, he's so amazing. I always
Yeah.
watch him. I'm like, oh my God, he's so good. He's already young too. He's good for being so young.
Yes, and the Red Sox just signed an extension with him, so he'll be on the
Mhm.
Sox for a long time.
And recently, we need to talk about this too, and stuff like that. And you just started Rayna Maggelet Sports. Can you tell us more about the show and its kind of mission about the show?
Yeah, so I actually came up with Maglet Sports, Rayna Maglet Sports on my own. It was more of an inspired idea that my mentor, Olivia Eisenhower, gave me unintentionally. And she didn't do any interviews. She would just post her accomplishments, which I do as well. But I came up with this interview segment show called Up to Bat. And it is about a bunch of I want to say upcoming athletes that will one day eventually make their ways to the pros, but as of right now, they're playing collegiate, D1, D2, um, plan on getting drafted, play for like the minor leagues of a big MLB team, sorry. Um, but yeah, so it's basically just a podcast of upcoming athletes that will one day make it to the pros, but right now they're waiting up to bat.
Like, who have you interviewed so far? I know you have like a couple of guests on your podcast, right?
Yes, so my first guest was Austin Ehrlicher. He is a right-hand pitcher. He's from Northern California and he got drafted by the Red Sox in the 2022 draft. And he also is an ASU baseball commit where I go to school. So I'll be seeing him and working with him next year when he comes to ASU and is on the baseball team. Um, and my next interview will be with Timmy Lovell. He is an ASU hockey player. So I'm going to cover all sports. But in my opinion, he will definitely make it to NHL. Definitely.
Like, are you gonna interview a lot of like ASU players, or it's gonna be all like around sports?
So right now I've been aiming a lot towards ASU because I have more connections, but also because this is fairly new. So whichever player I can interview is kind of where I'm getting my hands on right now. But I will eventually branch out. But right now I'm just more focused on ASU players just because I will be working with them later on in the future.
And like, what can I know? Like, since it just started and stuff, like you're still trying to grow your
Mm.
channel and stuff like that. But like, what can like we kind of expect from it, like the show?
Yeah, so right now I've been doing Zoom interviews and I will definitely be branching out more with in-person interviews, which is another reason why I'm aiming a lot towards ASU athletes because it's so easy and accessible to go and see them actually in person. So yeah, definitely look forward to more in-person interviews, which will be very exciting.
That's amazing. And like, with sports being like a male dominated industry, like how do you think women are kind of getting biased in sports?
Yeah, so I've heard this question a lot, and there's so many different answers to give. I feel like it's very much portrayed as women in sports media are the only ones getting biased, but it's women in sports as well.
Mm-hmm.
You turn on the TV and all you really see is just sporting events of males playing, and you hardly ever see a sporting event of a woman playing. Like compare the WNBA, it's always on TV. The Celtics, the Suns, the Heat, etc. But when do you ever see like a WNBA team playing? It's very rare. So it's more of like how often oh my gosh, sorry, how often they're broadcasted on TV, women's sports, but also how often do you see a woman reporting both a male sport as well as a women's sport? So there's so many different aspects of women being biased in such a sports industry that's especially a male dominated, but it's all around. It's a 360.
Exactly. Like that's like with being a female reporter, like there's more like oftentimes when we're watching sporting events, whether it's NBA, MLB, NHL,
Yeah,
WNBA, etc., volleyball, and like you often see male reporting on sports, but you hardly see any female reporters reporting on
yeah.
the sport, and that's the hardest part because like with there's a male dominated industry, there's so many women reporters in the industry, but they're hardly getting the job or hardly covering these sports things. And
Yeah.
like with you being starting out in sports, like how are you kind of trying to pave the way into your dream with working in sports with such like a with being a woman in sports, it's such a hard thing to be in such a hard industry. Like how are you trying to pave your way to be in it?
Lucky for me, I have a strong head on my shoulders. I am used to male backlash. I did have or I still do, I just don't post on it as often now. I do have a TikTok account, which is just baseball based. And I have received loads of comments, DMs, whether it's hating on me, giving me backlash, sexualizing me. So I hate to say it, but it's kind of become normalized. Like I'm just used to it, but also knowing what I'm getting myself into this male-dominated industry, which does not have a good reputation for women. I
Mm-hmm.
know what to expect going into it, which is horrible to have to say out loud and have to actually like realize that this is what this generation is and has been for the past 40 years. But I mean, it's honestly just like, this is it. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I don't want this to happen again. So in the end, it's more like I'm getting through this to hopefully put a stop to it so no one else has to be in the same position I am as right now.
Yeah, exactly. And like as a woman, like you said, like there like a lot of women are getting hate for being in a male dominated industry because they think like, oh my gosh, like you're just in this industry to meet the players, or you're trying to get with the
Yes.
players, or you just watch sports with the players. But that's not exactly true. Like I literally just got a job for a baseball team in a minor league for a minor league team for the Yankees, and most of like the for the people I met and with that work for the minor league Yankees are allowed to box like the front office is woman. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh my God, this is absolutely amazing to see. And I'm like, once I did the interview, like to see out of so many women working in sports is amazing, but like you like a lot of like sports channels don't really highlight women that work in the front office or female reporters or etc. They don't really highlight them.
Yeah. Definitely. They're more, I kind of want to say it's like a guilty pleasure secret. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely women in sports, 110%, but it's more matter of are they being treated correctly? And the answer
Mhm.
to most of that is no.
Mhm.
I have connections with numerous women in sports. I am actually taking a course here at ASU who I actually interned for. Her name's Jody Jackson. I mentioned her in our pod or in our interview on Instagram a few weeks ago. And she's told me numerous times, I've had so many men come up to me with, hateful comments, or I've got it from fans, like male fans, and it's kind of a thing that you just have to be used to and expect being a woman in this industry. But it's not like every single woman in this industry has had the same experience, but
Mhm.
enough of women has had this experience that it should not be happening.
Exactly. And like with being like a woman in sports, like it's so crazy because like even though you read so much hate, like you're basically living your dream to where you are. Like you shouldn't like hate get to you even though you're working to pursue your dream. Like they just think like, oh my God, you're just here for the players. But then
Yeah,
like you're just here to one actually kind of connect with them. But then like you want to make a pavable way for other women in sports as well. Like you're making a name for people that want to be in sports are younger than you that want to pursue sports in the future. But then
yeah,
like what the problem is like industry leaders in sports don't really like to show it because they don't like they think oh women like they should be highlighted. Like you said earlier, you hardly see WNBA on TV. There's always NBA on TV. So that's kind of like the problem is that like even though there's so many women on like are in the sports industry, they're reporting the front office or whatever it is, like they just don't really like to highlight them. They always like to highlight men.
yes, exactly. And that's honestly the reason that I'm here today and that I chose this as my career path because growing up, like I mentioned, I watched so many sporting events on TV, in person, on my phone, whatever it is. I never, hardly ever saw a woman. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I looked over at my dad, my grandfather, and I'll never forget this. And I said, why is it always men on TV, never women?
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, that's how it is. And I was like, yeah, no, like that's not right. Like I want to change that. And here I am talking with you about changing that and my goal. And it's honestly incredible, but that happening, women not being broadcasted enough, is the reason why I'm here. They do
Mm-hmm.
work in sports, whether they're treated right or not, but they're not highlighted enough, and they should be. And sometimes I feel like part of that reason is whether they're embarrassed to show a woman because male fans might think women aren't educated enough in sports or are fit for this position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like for me, like I grew up watching sports. I
Yeah.
literally grew up going to baseball games. My family's such big sporting fans that we literally went to sporting games like every week or every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like even though you know so much about sports and you want to work in this industry and you already have a job with a sports team, whether it's
Mhm.
a writer or front office or either interviewing the players or whatever it is, like they're just not highlighted. Like all
Yeah.
the men are highlighted, whether it's just like, oh, they interviewed this person or they're getting more views or they just interviewing these amazing type of people and getting highlighted in these
Yeah.
like magazines and stuff, getting press. But then like you look and you see not many women being interviewed. And that's a problem, is that like you don't really they don't really probably don't really care. They're probably like, oh, men, like women don't need to be highlighted because like they're women and they just don't deserve it. And then like we hardly see any woman reporting on TV.
Yeah. Definitely. And that's just my goal at the end of the day is that, sorry, is that younger kids and younger females that want to be, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Younger females that want to be like where I am one day have like a role model to look up to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like me, I have some role models, but these men, they have role models. They turn on the TV, bam, there's five of them right there.
Mm-hmm.
Women, you have to like search up women reporting sports. Like that's honestly how I found some of my role models. Like gosh, what am I saying? Jody Jackson Ackerley, like that is how I discovered her was from looking her up and saying women in sports. And I saw her and I was so drawn to her. And
Mm-hmm.
it's upsetting that it's so difficult to find a woman reporting than it is to find a man, which is expected as being in a male-dominated sport. That doesn't mean it's 2023 here. Like that doesn't mean woman never be broadcasted, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like despite like the gender bias in the sports industry against women, like what are kind of things leaders in the sports industry can do to end kind of bias against women in
What
your
can I do or what can other people?
well, you and other people.
Yeah, I think honestly, for other people, is probably just gain awareness and be kinder to women. I think a lot of the reason that sports networks don't exactly broadcast women that often is because the backlash that fans give them,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, affects their brand, the whole whatever. But I think just being kinder to women and knowing that just because they're a woman doesn't mean they're just as they don't have as much knowledge in the sport as men do. You know what I mean? Like I can name countless men that I know a lot more sports and the way it works than they can. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
knowing and realizing that just because you're a woman does not mean anything is the day that this like world will really change. But I think what myself can do is honestly just fight for a spot to be on TV and show that younger girls that you can be where I am if you work hard enough and not let anyone get to you.
Exactly. And like that's literally like hands down because like with being positive towards women, like they often think like, oh, you can't even name five players or you can't
Yeah.
even know you don't know a team. But then for me, like I can name literally five players on a team that I like or name every MLB team or NFL team on the top of my head. Like it's
Mhm.
so easy and people think like, oh, this is like you can't like sports because you're a woman, but then like you like literally know everything about sports. Like for me, I literally grew up at a baseball field with my brother because my brother played baseball growing up.
Yeah.
Like that for me, like I used to always want to be in the dugout watching the games. I was always a
Yes.
girl that's always sitting there watching the games, paying attention while other people are playing around and doing things around the field. Like that was always that kid. But
Yeah.
then like people are always saying women can't like sports or don't know anything about sports.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right, Kylie. And it's very upsetting as it is, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like, what is like some advice for people that kind of want to work in sports? And that's like a final question I have for you.
Yeah. I think for men, if I'm giving this advice to men, you have the world at your fingers. You know, you can make it happen if you're dedicated enough. but there's not really much of a fight or competition. There is, I'm not saying there isn't, but compared to women, there really is not nearly as much. But for all the women out there that want to be, where I am one day and where I will be soon, keep on working. You will gain a lot of hatred and backlash and some uncomfortable comments that make you kind of very like scared to be where you are right now, but you just have to push through and know that you're making a change. Like each woman that enters this industry is one more woman that will be broadcasted and that will be highlighted. And one more woman add to the industry. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But honestly, just do your best, stay strong, be hardworking. You need to work extremely, extremely hard, especially since it's so competitive, but you have it. The world is at your fingers as well. You just have to make it yours, and you can do anything you set your mind to.
Yes, like you like well said. And like I want to ask you, since the Super Bowl's tonight, like in when people
Yeah.
see this episode, it's gonna be after the Super Bowl, like who do you
Yes.
think is gonna win the Super Bowl tonight?
Oh, that's a great question. So, if I had to choose, I want the Eagles to win. Fly, Eagles, fly. But I really just, I have a feeling the Chiefs might win. I
Uh,
have a feeling, but I really don't want them to. I want it to be Eagles. My
mm,
score prediction would have to be, oh, I'm gonna go 31-24. 31-24. I'm gonna go with Eagles. I'm gonna go with Eagles. I think the Chiefs might win, but I'm gonna go with Eagles.
yeah, like I feel like it's gonna be like a high scoring game for some reason.
Yes,
It'll be a
definitely.
high scoring game.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, and like I'm in the same way. Like I want the Eagles to win since I live 2 hours east from Philadelphia. Like some of my family likes the Eagles, but
Yeah.
then like, I have a feeling that the Chiefs are gonna win for some reason.
Yeah, I do too. And the Eagles, I mean, I'm so excited for them. This is awesome. Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. This is a great Super Bowl, but I really hope the Eagles win.
Me and you both. It's gonna be a great game though. I have to say, it's gonna be a
Yes,
really good game.
regardless of who wins, it's going to be an
Mhm.
amazing game.
And I'm like very excited to see Rihanna though, like perform for Super Bowl.
Oh, yes. It's going to be awesome. I know a person or two that's actually performing in the Super Bowl halftime show, and there should be a guest coming on. So,
Oh, really?
to that, there should be a special guest. I can't say who, but there should be a special guest coming in with her.
That's amazing. There's always a special guest going on Super Bowl. I
There
have a
is
feeling there's
always a
probably gonna be like a
special.
guest coming
I'm
on.
very
So this is
excited
a
for this
guest come
one.
on like when someone performs.
Yes, I'm very, very excited for this one. The vibes are gonna be great.
Exactly. And like I want to thank you so much for joining the podcast and
Yes.
just keep up the good work. I seriously love what you're doing and just keep up the good work and you Shiggy for coming on and thank you everyone for listening to this episode and stay tuned for the next episode of the Talk of Fame podcast and thank you so much Rayna for coming on. I love chatting with you again. We have to do this again soon.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.